Welcome back. All right, so yes, first off, I'm wearing my Letterkenny jersey. I have my Letterkenny jersey. I also have my Shoresy jersey. Um, I'm toying with the idea of not wearing jerseys of teams that are playing that night for preview videos and maybe for recaps as well. And just wearing. I've got all the geeky jerseys. I've got all these other jerseys for other leagues and whatnot. So we'll see. I'm toying with that idea. So 11 games tomorrow. So this does not include the game being played in Australia tonight. That starts at 9:05 p.m. my time. I understand for most people in the world that's a Sunday game, but for me it's a Saturday night game. And I talked about that one yesterday, where I kind of did the preview for both of the Australian games. So we have 11 games in North America tomorrow. Columbus and Pittsburgh play twice. First at 1 o'clock Eastern, so the 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific is why I'm doing the preview today. And it'll be Columbus, Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh in Columbus. So again, there's games all day. This is the only 7 p.m. Eastern start / 4 p.m. Pacific start. And I don't have which channels you can see them on, but by all means, always check out social media for all of the NHL teams. There's usually going to be a live stream of some sort. It's much scaled back from what it'll be during the regular season, but they'll usually tell you where to watch the games. So you've got Columbus and Pittsburgh starting things, and then an hour later at 2 o'clock Pacific or 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, the Buffalo Sabres in against the Washington Capitals. Buffalo 42-33-7 last year. Washington 35-37-10. So you'll notice 25-28-9 for Columbus, 40-31-11 for Pittsburgh. All these numbers in blue. Why? They missed the playoffs. Teams that missed the playoffs I put in blue. The teams that made the playoffs I put in red, because why not? So Buffalo and Washington's an interesting matchup because you've got two teams looking to jump above the playoff line. Buffalo's been below the playoff line for 12 straight seasons. Desperately needs playoffs now. And for Washington, 1 year outside the playoffs, they want to jump back in. Same thing that Pittsburgh's trying to do as well. 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific start time between Toronto and Ottawa. This will be on Sportsnet 1. So this will be across Canada on Sportsnet. Toronto 50-21-11 last year, and obviously playoffs, and that's all that matters. The regular season doesn't matter unless Toronto were to miss the playoffs, which they're not going to do. Ottawa 39-35-8, their overall record last season, and again missing the playoffs. So it's going to be a dogfight in the Atlantic, and I am looking forward to it. 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific start between the Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche. Minnesota 46-25-11, also in that category of we'll see what they do in the playoffs, right? First round knockout, that just seems to be what happens with Minnesota. So until the playoffs, we'll see what happens. But for Colorado, looking to get back to Stanley Cup form, 51-24-7 last season. And that should be a fun one, those two natural rivals, of course. 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific, we got the Rangers and the Boston Bruins. The Bruins not expected to be nearly as good this season as they were last year, where they went 65-12-5. For the Rangers, 47-22-13, and looking to have a better season this year than last year. Rangers might be getting into that category too of a team that, we'll see how they do in the playoffs. That'll be the true measure of their success. And that's when you know that a team is in contention, is when the regular season results are kind of we know they're a good regular season team. Let's see what they do in the playoffs. 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific. We got two games starting then. First off, the Jets and the Oilers. The Jets 46-33-3 last season. Made the playoffs and then got knocked out in the first round. Rick Bowness kind of had it with his players after that was done. Apparently that's all smoothed over. The Oilers went 50-23-9. As mentioned in a video I did earlier today, in back-to-back seasons, they have been eliminated by a team that went on to win the Stanley Cup. So that should be a fun one. Prairie battle right there. Also at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, the Coyotes in against the Dallas Stars. So the Coyotes, of course, missing the playoffs last season. Dallas made the playoffs, won 47-21-14, and this game will be played in Cedar Park, Texas. So it's the only neutral site game to be played so far, other than the two in Australia, and that's kind of fun. So Dallas, the home team here in Cedar Park, and hopefully for fans going out, you guys enjoy the game. Should be a fun one, although it's one Dallas should win. Most of the good Coyotes, like the NHL level Coyote players, are over in Australia, right? So the one thing to keep in mind is that means that the players playing for the Coyotes tomorrow are going to be the players who are trying to prove that they should get a job and they should stick around. So keep that in mind if you're Dallas, right? 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start time, as I previously mentioned. Pittsburgh and Columbus, the only game being started at that time, which is the most common to start time for a game. But it's a Sunday, so you try to make the hockey go all day. I know this happens during the regular season this year as well, and I'm ready for it. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We got 3 games starting then. Those are the latest games to be played, starting with LA in against the Anaheim Ducks. The Kings 47, 25, and 10, and most of their NHL level players being overseas. So the Ducks 23, 47, and 12 last year. Not expected to be a lot better than last season, but still expected to be better. They can't have another 23-win season. That's just miserable. So for the Ducks, I'm hoping for, I would say, at least 30, 31, 32 wins, somewhere in that region, right? Just that improvement is important. I think it's important to the young players, and hey, they've got a coach that really wants to win, and he's sending all the right messages right now. We'll see how it translates to regular season results. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific start between Vegas and the San Jose Sharks. This, of course, a pretty strong rivalry when both teams are good. San Jose, though, has not been good for a couple of years, and so that definitely has hurt the rivalry. For Vegas, 51, 22, and 9, and a Stanley Cup win this past June. For the San Jose Sharks, 22, 44, and 16. Really rough season. At a lot of points last year, it looked like they were not going to reach the 20-win mark. They did reach the 20-win mark, and it's probably going to be another long season for the San Jose Sharks and their fans. The one positive of that is when you know it's going to be a long season, it makes it a little bit easier to take. And I say a little bit because it's still not fun watching the team you cheer for lose that often. So it's a little better going, oh, they lost that one, they had the lead, they lost it, but at least we're going to get a good draft pick out of it, right? So there's that aspect. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, and this game will be on Sportsnet as well. I don't think this one's cross Canada, though, and that's Vancouver and Calgary. At the very least, it's not on Sportsnet 1. So for Vancouver, 38, 37, and 7, they're looking to jump back into the playoffs. Calgary, 38, 27, and 17. So both teams won 38 games. I think the expectations are a little bit higher in Calgary, whether that's fair or it's not. And for Vancouver, there is some pressure here. This is a team that has made adjustments to their blue line. There's been a lot of fundamentals, practice the first few days of camp. Just trying to get the basic stuff down so you can progress from there, and we'll get an idea of where they're at tomorrow against Calgary. Keeping in mind, there's going to be a lot of teams here that are not dressing veteran lineups. The veteran minimum, sometimes teams take that kind of liberally. Like, you'll see somebody in there that's technically an NHL veteran, but he hasn't played in the NHL in years and qualifies as a veteran, so most of the lineup is meh. So during the preseason, I'm going to do as I've done the last couple years, where I'll do a recap of the Leafs in Ottawa. I intend to do a recap of Vancouver and Calgary, although I will say this, once we get into the regular season, I'm kind of liking the idea of calling it the NHL Rundown. NHL Rundown for the date, and go from there. I got away from the word review because there was a lot of people like, he's not reviewing, he's just doing notes. All right, I'll call it a recap then. But so I may change the name of it. And of course, this year I'm going to allow myself to have a couple of nights off here and there when it's a light night in the NHL. Something from my wife about wanting to actually see me during the regular season or something. Just crazy stuff. But at any rate, it should be a fun year, and I'm looking forward to recapping some preseason games. And I'm going to take copious amounts of notes because that's what I do. I've done videos before on how that developed. That was not something that I did when I first started reviewing the night's action. I used to just put the scores on the board, and I would just talk about the games. But then it became, well, you're not actually watching the games. If you watched that game, you wouldn't be saying that. So I started taking, a little bit of notes here and there, and eventually it evolved into what it is now. It is what it is. So I try to write on the board things that I think are interesting or pertinent to the game and worthy of discussion. I'm well aware that there's a lot of highlight reels all over the internet, especially here on YouTube. So I try to provide information from the games, from the notes, from what I watch. To try to give some kind of an idea for instance, there's times where in a highlight reel you'd be like, wow, that team, they lost 4-1. That was a really lopsided game. And then for me, I take notes, and I'm able to say after the game, you know what, it was 4-1. But the team that won 4-1 had some luck, or maybe they had great goaltending, and maybe there were some momentum swings early on that helped them get that result. So that's why I take the notes that I do, and I'm grateful for people who watch the recap videos when they're posted at the channel. Uh, I feel good when people do that. So here's to hoping for another strong, successful season. And again, there's the night early on in the season where there's 16 games on a Tuesday. That's a night where I will do my absolute best to watch as much as I can. But, there's limits with what one person can do. And so I will do my absolute damnedest to make sure that I provide the information to you people on the internet on those games. The one thing that's kind of tricky with that, though, is I like when the really busy nights are later in the season so that you'll have matchups between teams that aren't playoff teams. And then I don't have to give as much attention to those games as for the ones between playoff teams. But that early in the season, late October, everybody's still in the hunt, right? Nobody's eliminated. So I have to try to be as fair in my viewing as possible. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, including who you think's going to win. I don't think anything's official. We get into that with the regular season. But let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And yep, this is the first traditional preview video, even though I'm not using the traditional preview board. And I'm also considering having two different preview boards this year, one for when it's really busy, I'm looking at right there, and one for when it's not, where I don't have to have that huge 4-foot by 2-foot board. It feels like I would need that if there's more than, say, 9 games. So I'd pull out the big board for the days that there's 10 or more games. Other than that, I can use a smaller board. But again, just small items. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.